Welcome back! Again, I'm really not creepy, although I don't have eyebrows, so kind of creepy, right? Welcome back to yet another spooky video. If you're new to the channel, because I noticed I've had like a few new subscribers, every Friday from now until October 31st, Halloween, we are doing spooky videos every Friday. So tune in if you dare. Today, I'm actually going to try and do a ghost story. It's what I was trying to do last Friday, and for some reason, like what I was trying to set up to be like a haunted house story turned into like a weird three-clawed creature abducting people. I don't know. In case you guys are wondering, like I'm literally just coming up with this stuff like off the top of my noggin. So like, I don't know where the story's gonna go. I just kind of go. I just go. And then I edit the like montage of me doing my makeup down to like fit the story. If you're wondering the process behind all this, that's the process. The process is I'm crazy and I have all this crap in my head. Today we're going to be trying to do a mummy look complete with bandages. So you're going to see me wrapping my head like it's fine. It's fine. I'm fine. With that said, let's get to it. And by the way, thank you for letting me have an easy week. It's been really nice. Like, a girl could get used to only doing 2 videos a week. I'm just saying. Like, that might be a future thing. That might, like, it's nice. But for now, I'll stay on the grind. Just for you. But just know, I might slow it down a little bit. It's nicer. It's easier on me. So, that said, let's get into it. And I'm going to try and tell an honest-to-goodness ghost story this time. Come on, brain. You ever just visit a place? Maybe you pass it by, and there's just something about it. Something that makes you uneasy, sad. You just feel a sense of dread or loss, and you can't quite shake it, and you don't really know why. Charles was a traveling salesman in the early 50s. Never really settled down, never really had a reason to. He just called whatever motel he was staying at home. Eventually, he did so well in sales that the company that he worked for gave him sort of a more settled little patch of land to sell his stuff in. It was about 6 counties wide, so not necessarily settled, but, you know, I wasn't traveling all across America anymore. It was just that little section. And he did pretty well for himself. Very personable. Wasn't exactly overly handsome, but he wasn't bad on the eyes. So, you know, very friendly with the stuck-at-home housewives. And he had all sorts of little gizmos and gadgets that he would sell them, and they did kind of help life, or at least they thought it did in the 1950s. I mean, have you looked at some of the stuff that they did in the 1950s? It makes no sense. But he catered to them, and they loved him for it. Now, there was a little town that he had about 5 people that he would visit, and they would usually buy something, some little knick-knack, something. But the only way to get to that town was over a 1-lane bridge. There was only one road going in and out. And there was something about that bridge. It just unnerved Charles. He couldn't figure out why. It was absolutely in a beautiful location. I mean, the bridge was over this pretty little creek. There was like wooded area all around. Very picturesque in the fall. But just something about it kind of unsettled him. He didn't like going over the bridge at night, so he'd always try and leave early. Well, there was one day he'd kind of lingered a little too long at a few of his stops. They bought a lot of stuff and they were chatting his ear off, so he thought, it's the least I can do to let them chat my ear off. I mean, they just put a nice chunk of commission in my pocket. Very practical man. So, by the time he left that little town, it was a little darker than he would have liked it to have been. It was late August, kind of chilly in the air, and like the little low spots in the hills, there was a little bit of fog. But as he had got closer to that creek, the fog was really thick. And he's like, oh no, I should not have stayed so long. So he's kind of in a hurry to get home. He goes to cross the bridge, and he had to throw the brakes on. There was a woman. A really pale woman in a white dress, standing in the middle of the bridge. She turned and looked at him. But when he opened the car door to yell to see if she was okay, she was gone. Charles looked all around, but he couldn't find anything, and finally he was like, it must have just been the fog, like the way the headlights were in the fog. That had to be it. It was just, trick of the light on the fog. It just looked like a woman. There was no one there. There's no way she could have disappeared. So he traveled on, but he definitely remembered that encounter. But as time went by, he shook it off and just convinced himself that it was just the fog, right? Another night, Charles again lingered a little too long at a few of his stops. It wasn't quiet night, but it was dusky enough that he needed to have the headlights on. And unfortunately, it was also raining. And again, he came to the bridge, and he just knew something was wrong. And he didn't know why, but he could just feel it. The bridge always made him uneasy, but not tonight. Tonight, it was just a sense of dread coming to that bridge. And he got to the middle of the bridge, and his car stalled out and died. There was no reason for his car to stall. As a traveling salesman, he had to keep his car in very good shape. He couldn't figure out why it would do that. So he gets out in the rain, and he pops the hood. And that's when he heard it. A woman crying. Well, he starts yelling, "Ma'am? Ma'am?" No one answered. But still, he could hear crying. So he gets out his flashlight from whatever his briefcase and stuff is. He always had an emergency kit because, traveling salesman, you gotta be ready for anything. And he flashes his light all around, looks around the banks. Nothing. And he gets back to the bridge. He could still hear the crying, but there's no one around. He looks under the hood of the car and everything's fine, so he shuts the hood and gets back in his car, tries to start it up, and it started right up, no problem. He went on to the next hotel, still a little shaken, but maybe it was just something in the rain. Maybe there was some cats yowling off in the distance or something, and it sounded like a woman crying, but it wasn't actually, and it was just, the rain and a cat crying, and, he could rationalize it. It was something else. It was definitely something else. But why did his car stall? What was going on? Why is it always the middle of that bridge that something weird happens? Something he can't explain. Another day. It was the daytime this time. He felt safe. He managed to get there early. There was no chance of him having to drive through that bridge at night. Not today. He sees a young girl in a white dress. She was playing around right by the middle of the bridge. It looked like she was chucking rocks off the side of the bridge and watching them make little circles in the water. So he kind of stops, rolls down his window, and he says, "Ma'am, are you out here alone? Do you have parents nearby?" She turns, and she was so pale. There's just something not right about her, but he couldn't put his finger on it. And she just quietly said, No, I'm alone here." And he said, "Well, I'm heading into the nearest town. Do you live there?" And she said, Yes, my parents live there." And so he said, "Okay, well, if you want to get in, like, I might have to move some stuff around. I'm a traveling salesman, so I've got all kinds of trunks and stuff in the back of the seat, but I can move some stuff around and give you a ride if that's, okay with you." Well, she said, that would be fine. So he gets out and he moves his stuff around, and the whole time he keeps staring at her, and just, there's something strange about her. Very sad. But he can't put his finger on it. What is it? Why does she look familiar? So she gets in the back seat, and he gets in the front, and he asks her name. And she said, "My name's Helen." He said, "Okay, Helen. And how old are you?" And she said, "I'm 14. Almost 15. And he said, "Oh, well, that's fun. Are you in high school?" "Yeah." So he just makes polite conversation as they drive on towards the town. And right before town, there's this one house. It's a white house with red shutters. And she said, "That's my house. My parents lived there." So he pulls over and he stops, and it's not one of his houses that he normally stops at. When he gets out, and he lets her out of the car, and then he walks up to the house and knocks on the door, assuming that she was following him. They answered the door. It's the sweet, sweet woman, slightly graying in her hair. A lot older than he would have thought someone who had a 14-year-old would look, but people have children at all ages. And he said, "Ma'am, I found your daughter on the bridge. She was throwing pebbles into the water." And she started crying. He turned around and the daughter was gone. So he starts yelling, "Helen? Helen!" The woman's sobbing hysterically, so the man comes to the door. And he said, "See here, what's this about?" And I said, "Well, sir, I'm so sorry, but I saw your daughter on the bridge. I gave her a ride here, but she's apparently run off. I don't know what's going on." The man quietly shuts the door and steps outside. And he said, "Listen, our daughter fell off that bridge and drowned 10 years ago." Charles stood there, face just drained of color. He said, "I don't understand. I saw her, like she was alive." And the man said, "Listen, you're not the first traveler to come through here and bring our daughter home to us. But she never does show." Charles is just chilling. Like, he can feel cold sweat forming on his upper lip. And he said, I don't understand. That bridge, there's something about that bridge. I've seen things there that I couldn't understand. A woman crying. And he said, that would be our daughter's friend. And he said, your daughter's friend? And he said, yes. A year before our daughter fell overboard, she had a friend, a music teacher. Her husband left her, and she went to the bridge, and she killed herself right in the middle of the bridge. And ever since then, strange things happen at the bridge. For instance, our daughter. She was a strong swimmer, but she always loved that bridge. But after her friend died, the music teacher, there's something about that bridge. She went to the bridge every day. She'd come back humming all these strange songs we'd never heard before, but she would go back every day to the bridge. And then they found her body. Well, Charles had no idea what to say. I mean, what do you say to that? So he said, well, sir, I'm terribly sorry, and I did not mean to upset your wife. I thought I was bringing your daughter home. I don't know what's going on here, but this is very strange. And the man said, you're telling me. Try having strangers bring your daughter home for 10 years. Just be careful of the bridge. Strange things always happen in the middle of that bridge. Well, you didn't have to tell Charles twice. He's had 2 encounters already, and now this. So he hurries, he gets his business done, and he tries to get over that bridge before dark. He did not want to be stuck on that bridge at dark. He gets to the middle of the bridge, and once again, this car stalls. Knowing what he knows, he sits there, trembling, like, do I get out? I know there's nothing wrong with my car. Am I going to hear a woman crying again? It's broad daylight. What is going on? Maybe I can yell for help. Before he could even get out, he sees something move out of the corner of his eye. He looks up in the rearview mirror, and there's a woman sitting in his car. A beautiful woman in a long white dress. He knows. He knows. He's never going to make it off this bridge. The next day, the sheriff got called to the town. There was a strange car stuck on the middle of the bridge. No sign of struggle. No sign of the traveling salesman. The sheriff said to himself, well, I guess the bridge claimed another victim. Okay, here's my mummy look. If I can keep my bandaging from falling off. I think it looks pretty cool. If I do say so myself. And I do. And, do you know how hard it was to do all this with one freaking eye? Like, what was I thinking? Why didn't I just do that and this and then put the bandages on? I hate myself. I made this so much harder than it needed to be. Okay, well, for future reference, do the makeup first and then put the bandages on, because it's really hard to do eyeliner with one eye on the one eye that you have. Don't be me. Don't be me. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'll see you on Monday, and we will have our normally scheduled videos next week. I just needed a break this week. Just a little break. So thank you guys so much. It is so weird trying to look at the camera with only one eye. Like, my depth perception is crazy right now. I love you guys so much. Bye!